Hello and welcome back to another RouterGods video. My name is Humphrey, the ex-Cisco SE. We're going to continue on our Sales Engineer free series. And we're going to talk about the sales cycle. 3 phases. The first phase will be everything up until the first physical meeting. The middle phase will be taking it from the initial meeting, the first initial meeting, the physical meeting, up until the POC. And then the last phase will be taking it from the POC to the negotiation, the post-sales, and hopefully everything runs smoothly, but we all know if you've worked in IT for long enough, nothing really goes completely to plan in what happens in the post-sales phase. Now we're assuming here that this is a named account. The account has been assigned to you. You're not cold calling for this account, and there is no pre-existing opportunity. Now what's going to happen is you've been given this account. Company XYZ is your customer. You need to figure out what to sell them, if anything, if they need anything. And the way you accomplish that, the first step is research, basic research, going through their websites, looking at their 10K, the SEC 10K, looking through their news, Google News. Are they building any new factories? Are they doing any hiring? So you're going to spend 10 to 15 minutes, depending on your time, on just checking up on this customer. Another part of your basic research is, do you have an in? Do you know anyone at this company? And you can find that through LinkedIn. Hopefully, if you've worked a couple years as an SE, you've worked in the IT field. IT is a very small world, and you have an in. I can tell you the best situations I have been in is where I have gone to a CCIE bootcamp, Narbix Micronics CCIE bootcamp, and I was going into the company, and the head of IT, or one of the heads of IT, was my former classmate in that bootcamp. And so we get on a call, we get on a WebEx, and it's like, Humphrey, buddy. So those are the best things. I've also been at a customer, and I was at a data center of this customer, and the guy walks out and is like, you were my MCSE teacher during the .com days. Like, that's a great feeling. So see if you have an in of, someone in the IT department that you can talk to. Now, hopefully it's someone higher up, whether it be a manager or director, but if it's just a normal employee, that's fine too. You're looking for some way of getting in so that you're not a complete stranger. Now, many times your account manager, we're also assuming here you're paired up with an account manager. If the account manager has been on this account for a couple years, your account manager is bringing in the opportunity and bringing you in trying to bring them in for the initial meeting. Okay, so you've done your initial research, you've looked through LinkedIn, you've gone through Google, you've kind of researched the company a little bit. Depending on how large the potential opportunity, and how large this customer is, will mandate an internal meeting. So you're going to have, if it's a huge customer, like a Fortune 100 customer, yeah, there's definitely going to be an internal meeting talking about strategy. So it could be you and the account manager, it could be multiple teams. If it's a billion-dollar company, it's probably going to be potentially dozens of people. I've been on these where it's a whole room of 24 people getting together to discuss strategy, who leads with what, who comes in first, setting up, even setting out that first initial email might require a bunch of people getting together. So basically this is an internal huddle to discuss strategy. Now, if this is a smaller company, so we're talking 100 employees, maybe they make $1 million or so, maybe there's no huddle at all. It could be just you and your account manager sitting over coffee, like, how should we do this? Okay, sounds good. It could be a very quick 5-minute decision. But as these accounts and opportunities get larger, these huddles can be a whole day, can be a whole week in certain cases. Now, those of you guys who don't know, on the extremely large accounts, these are almost treated like a region by itself, because when you're talking about a $50 to $100 billion company, it's basically like a country, right? So in these cases, the account manager could be called a global account manager because they handle all the subsidiaries for this company. They handle this company on a global scale. So this quote unquote account manager is treated almost like a regional manager, almost like a director in some cases. So yeah, these could get quite serious on the enterprise and global levels. Okay, we're still in our first phase, which is before the first physical meeting. Step 1, we've researched this company. Step 2, we've had some type of internal huddle. And step 3 is, okay, during this huddle, maybe a bit afterwards, you kind of guess at what they may need. And you might have internal tools about what gear they have, what gear is expiring. There are certain newsletters or research that you can subscribe to. Cisco has bunch of internal tools to look up stuff, and you may guess that, okay, their wireless may appear to be old. And it's an educated guess. It's not going to be, unless you actually go in there and look up on the ceiling to see the access points, you won't really know 100%. But you're going to make an educated guess. Like, okay, it's been a while since they bought any switches. It's been a while since they've bought wireless. We're going to guess this. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to make an educated guess about what they have and what they could need or what they could potentially buy. So you're doing I guess it's called gap analysis of what they have now, what they should be at, and how will you meet that. Okay, the next step is we're going to fire off an initial email or a call. Now, this could be, if it looks like I have the contacts on the technical side, I could do it first. It's not a big deal. If it's the account manager, then the account manager will do it first. If you have a really good relationship and really good trust working with different teams, then it should be no problem for the SE to fire it off. But on a lot of these larger accounts, like we're talking the billion dollar accounts, the account manager owns the relationship, and they may want to know that you're sending out an email before you actually send it out, because they can get a little prickly that you could potentially be stepping on their toes. They could be trying to sell this. They could be in the state of a POC, and then you come in and potentially ruin everything by putting in extra information and making the customer go, oh, I want to look at that now. So especially on the really large global accounts, those are where the account manager is almost like a god, where you have to ask permission, and you have to send them the email and they send it for you. It could be that situation, especially in the Asian sectors and the Asian accounts. Okay, so you've contacted them, you've sent out the email, whether it be you or your account manager or someone else, you've reached out to them, and hopefully you've gotten an initial meeting. And that initial meeting these days is usually going to be virtual. It's going to be a WebEx. Maybe the customer wants to use Zoom. Could even be FaceTime or WhatsApp in Asian territories. But you're going to have some type of virtual meeting just to introduce yourself. And we're also assuming here that you've never met the customer before, so they want to just introduce your face. And this is a really easy meeting, and you get to introduce yourself. You also have to expect the customer to be going through your LinkedIn. Everyone, as an SE, you got to keep your LinkedIn up to date and interesting, because you got to expect every single customer that you contact will probably go type in your name in Google and LinkedIn to see what you're all about. So keep that LinkedIn updated. The middle phase, which starts with the actual first real meeting. First real meeting being, hopefully, it's in person. And before your first initial meeting, you're going to have a huddle and talk about strategy. What should we talk about, etc. Now, in some cases, if you're going in blind, that huddle could be in the morning before you go in. So let's say you're meeting them at 9 a.m. You could be meeting at a coffee shop across the street at 8 o'clock, 8 a.m., and just do a little 15-minute talk, get your PowerPoint together, get your demo together, and just, you're going to talk first, I'm going to talk second, we're going to do this, do we want to switch? And there's different strategies that you can use. Very typical one will be the sales guy. The AM introduces himself, you introduce yourself, the salesperson does their PowerPoint and then hands off the demo to the sales engineer. Other times, which was quite common at Meraki is that we had this thing where I let the AM talk and I have the demo, and I'm doing the demo. The AM narrates while I do the clicking, and then we can hand it off. It's actually a pretty cool way to do it, and Cisco Meraki was an awesome product to pitch, because this is a case where the AM can do a lot of the demo. In fact, I've had many instances, I would say 20% of the time, the account manager was like, "Hey Humphrey, I feel like doing everything today." Like, okay, cool. Like, just let my account manager do the demo and do the whole pitch. And if there were any real technical questions, I was there on the standby. So yeah, that's pretty cool feeling when the account manager just wants to do everything themselves. And also, kind of the flip side is, I would say 10% of the time, like if I had a better relationship with the customer, I would run the whole thing. So I would run the initial PowerPoint, introductions, do the demo, and the account manager would just basically be on the side for salesy type questions. And this is just because we gauge the customer to be tech heavy. So this was a case where the team that we're talking to is all the network engineers, and there was no manager there. There was no like accounting person there. Now also in this phase will be objection handling, technical concerns, and that is you're doing your demo and you're trying to get a POC, and they're going to bombard you with questions. And now this handling objections and technical considerations, this could happen at any of the phases, any of the steps. So expect objections at every and all points during the sales cycle. It's just gonna sometimes come out of the blue. And this could be, can your product do this? What are the limitations? How do I update firmware? There's just lots and lots of questions, and these are the questions for you, the SE, because you are the smart guy in the room, you're the technical person. These are the ones that you have to answer or find answers to. So also part of this middle phase will be the proposal and design. So you're going to propose something. You're going to say, well, after that meeting, you're going to listen to all their concerns, what they're looking for, and you're going to propose a design. I think this may work for you guys. We've seen other malls do this, and this is my proposal for your 8-story mall, and I'm basing this on our best design documents. And many companies, including Cisco, has internal and also external design documents that they go off of, so you don't need to reinvent the wheel all the time. But then you can also mix in your experience from other customers, and that's your big value as an SE, probably another video. But your big value as an SE is knowing all your other customers, having access to all the other customers and how they do things. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a customer, let's say a shop, let's say a mall shop. How about that? So this is a chain in a mall, and they want to do wireless in a mall. Okay, well, I also have customers that are malls, so they run the whole thing, and I also have customers that are other chain stores in a mall. So what you could do is you could tell them, what you want is very similar or maybe exactly the same as customer ABC. Now, for privacy concerns, you're not going to mention that customer, but you could say, I've got 5 other customers that are also in your mall, in that mall. And you could be general, like their clothing or their coffee or whatever, right? Well, if you say their coffee, they probably know who it is. And you could also say, I also have customers that run malls with your store in them. And this is how everyone does it. And so you could either contrast and compare, like, okay, the way you want to do it is kind of matches what everyone else does. Or you could say, by experience, I could tell you what you're trying to do is 180 degrees different than how everyone else does it. And the last part of this middle phase will be the POC/POV. POC, proof of concept, proof of value. This is where the customer is going to get some gear, get some test gear, free gear, and they're going to see if it works. So they're going to kick the tires, they're going to see if the Wi-Fi works, They're going to see the range, they're going to see how the switches work, and this phase could go, I mean, it could be a quick phase, it could be a couple days, or it could be months, in some cases years, on really, really big deals. And so, yeah, I've had this last 1+ years. I've also had customers that have not done a POC. They just, because I did such an awesome demo, they just bought it, which is pretty cool. And also we had cases during COVID where it was an emergency. Customers just bought things. They just bought certain things because they needed it yesterday because they just sent thousands of employees home. So yeah, usually though, there's going to be a POC, POV phase where the customer needs to test things out. And also they may want to test out your help desk, your TAC, your support number. They're going to make a couple of test calls just to see how fast they pick up the phone. Okay, the final phase of this is you're now aiming for what's called a technical close. Technical close means they tested everything, they're aware of all the limitations, everything works as promised, they know how to fit it in, they like the design, they've signed off, we think this design works, we think your product can fit. You haven't agreed on the price just yet, but technically everything works, technically everything matches. Now in the closing phase, negotiation phase, it's going to be a lot of back and forth between you and, not you, but it's going to be between the account manager and the customer, back and forth on the terms, how much discount, what extras can I get, can I go to Cisco Live, can I get an extra AP, you know, it's going to be a back and forth, and this could be range from slightly painful, because you got to expect that people want to save as much money as possible within reason, and different regions do things differently. So in the US, they negotiate differently than Asia, and different industries negotiate differently. For example, grocery chains negotiate much differently than other IT companies. So if you're selling to a large grocery chain, they're very used to just hammering discount into their vendors, because vendors are used to selling millions and millions of oranges or millions of watermelon or God knows what millions of units of things. So they're used to hammering in a discount. The customer and the account manager agree on the terms, contracts are sent out and signed, and it's what we call booked. Booked means that they've agreed to it, they've agreed to pay, and shipment dates are set. It's basically, this is pretty much set in stone. If it's booked, it's good, and for all intents and purposes. And from a publicly traded company perspective, if something is booked, it's good at it. I mean, it's good as you could probably get, I guess, until the product actually lands there. Okay, shipping of the product. When the customer books the order, it's going to take, depending on how much stock is there, I mean, if you're lucky, it could be there in a couple days to a week. If it's an emergency order, everything's express shipped, etc. Or it could take a couple weeks to a couple months. It just depends on the inventory and the type of devices on hand. If it's something complicated like a storage rack, something like not F5, but a NetApp, right? So the folks that work at NetApp, and you're buying a room full of disk servers or whatever they call them, that thing's probably not going to arrive tomorrow. It might take a couple weeks to do, unless it's a express order where they're paying extra for the privilege. So a lot of things can happen on the shipping. That's another video, but the product is going to ship. It's going to be en route to the customer. Sometimes it arrives all in one shot. Sometimes it arrives in pieces. Post-sales support, which hopefully you don't do too much of, but if it's a large company, you are going to get dragged into this. We all know in IT, not everything works exactly as promised. Firmware is different. Customer doesn't know all the commands. They need a little hand-holding, and so your company's support will be used or will be leveraged by the company to answer questions. They'll have to get on calls and WebExes and screen sharing to help install everything. And yes, on some of these you will be part of that. But yeah, post-sales implementation. Hopefully it's very minimal, or cross your fingers, hopefully it's zero, but you can't really, you hope for it, but you can't really expect it, especially when these are large, complicated deals. Okay, if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. If this has helped you, if this has been insightful, like and subscribe. And as always, stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.